Putin news now. After the Wagner uprising, Putin is likely hiding out of fear. So says Zelensky. Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Vladimir Putin is very afraid, because of a rebellion by the Wagner Group's mercenaries. Hours after the Russian president labeled the action as treason, Yevgeny Prigozhin's men were only 100 miles from Moscow when the mutiny was called off and the leader was sent to Belarus. On Saturday night, Ukrainian President Zelensky said, "The man from the Kremlin is obviously very afraid and probably hiding somewhere, not showing himself. I have no doubt that he has already left Moscow." The leader of Russia's Wagner group of mercenaries has apparently recalled his troops, putting an end to the mutiny, but analysts say the uprising may have done irreparable damage to President Vladimir Putin's image both at home and abroad. A key installation used by the Kremlin in its offensive operations in Ukraine was taken over by Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the shadowy private army that has played an outsized role in the fighting in Ukraine, on Saturday. Then, in what appeared to be an attempted coup d'état to the outside world, Wagner forces began their march toward Moscow. Within hours, however, Prigozhin, a former close confidant of Putin's, said he had ordered his forces to return to their bases after accusing Russia's military leadership of attacking and killing his soldiers. Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center director Alexander Gabuev says the Russian leader will be weakened by the significant challenge to his authority, despite the mutiny's apparent end. He will try to compensate by making the regime even more hands-on, Gabuev predicted to NPR. Domestically, the regime will tighten its grip. Michael McFaul, a former U.S. ambassador to Russia, says the mutiny by Prigozhin, without a doubt, undermines Putin and raises doubts about his ability to continue to govern Russia effectively. Prigozhin has been accusing Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu of incompetence and demanding his resignation as a result of his criticisms of the Russian military over the course of several months. On Saturday night, Prigozhin took to social media to announce that the mercenaries had arrived on the outskirts of Moscow after a «march for justice» from Rostov-on-Don, located in Russia's south. With that, he gave the order to «turn our columns around and go in the opposite direction back to a field camp as planned». Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov indicated an agreement had been reached by saying the criminal case against Prigozhin and his fellow mutineers would be dropped and that the Wagner boss himself will «go to Belarus». Military contracts will be signed by Wagner personnel who did not take part in the uprising with Russia's Ministry of Defense. Despite the lack of information currently available, Rand Corp senior political scientist Samuel Charap states, "One thing we know for certain is that Putin's authority is irreparably damaged. That the people who have the guns are not willing to use them to prop up your authority is sort of like a Wizard of Oz moment," he says.